Okay, we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order at 7 o'clock. Welcome to Town of Pendleton's February planning session meeting. If I could have a roll call to my left, please.
Cheryl Rennie Hunt.
Brad Valentine.
Tim Pritchard,
Jenny Sisson.
Bob Jewell.
thank you. We do have two absent, but we do have a quorum. If I could ask the board to review the minutes of the December meeting. Add any additions or corrections or remove to be accepted.
I make a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second that.
Thank you. I
I'll
have a
second that.
motion and a second. All those in favor of the minutes submitted, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Thank you. There's no old business. We'll move directly to new business. Well, I guess we need to elect officers.
Yeah, that's the first one, A on new business. That is repetitive.
So I guess we can make a motion to keep everybody in place as directed or go individually.
I make a motion to keep everyone as currently appointed.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to keep everybody as seated for 2025. Any objections or additions? Hearing none, all those in favor to keep everybody seated as positioned, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, those opposed? Thank you. Okay. New business is petition 2025-1 for a new church building, Roger and Bonnie Boyd via Solid Rock Baptist Church at 600 West.
Good
Denise?
evening, everyone. I'm Denise, the Assistant Planning Director. I am here on behalf of Hannah Rose Urbanski, filling in for her tonight as Planning Director, here to present our new business here that was filed on behalf of Solid Rock Baptist Church. And to start out, though, kind of want to give a little bit of order. We're going to kind of start putting this to kind of practice as far as our flow with our public hearing meetings. But as staff, I will start out providing site details about the subject property. Then from there, I will go in and explain what the petition is about, what the petitioner is seeking from the board tonight. And then we'll kind of dive into, kind of how the development will shape and form if this request for rezone is approved. And then we'll open up for questions for myself as staff or the petitioner if they would like to come up and add anything, answer any questions that you might have for both of us. And then from there, what we will need to do is we'll need to publicly open the public hearing to allow the public to make any type of comment. From there, then we will close and then the board will take a vote from there. So just kind of need to go over that. And then as far as a recommendation, it can be a favorable recommendation. It can be a denial, also a decision to continue this matter for further information as well. So that being said, this is regarding property at 0 South 600 West. And for kind of the details here, Stephanie, if you can go on to the next slide. Petitioner is here tonight, Aaron Hargis. He is here on behalf of the Solid Rock Baptist Church. Solid Rock Baptist Church is an existing congregation here on State Road 67. They're just kind of north of Huntsville. It is the congregation that is kind of in the back end. It's that larger facility there, has a kind of a church and a multi-purpose unit there, but they are outgrowing their space. And so they are looking for area and ground to build a new place of worship here in our town. This particular property that they are looking at, it's a large lot agricultural A1 that is about that 40-acre plus parcel to qualify within that zoning district. The property, again, it's about 36 acres total. And the area that they are of interest in rezoning is approximately 10 acres of that parent parcel. And that is outlined in the red. So it'd be the most southern piece of that property. You'll see that this kind of borders I-69. And then as well as access would then come off of 600 West, which is off of State Road 38 there. This land is currently used for seasonal farming right now. All right, petitioner has complied with all the filing requirements. The owner of this particular parcel and even the north parcel up to the north is owned by Roger and Bonnie Boyd. They have given consent for the petitioner to represent them on this matter. All of the documentations that the planning department has requested of this petitioner has been satisfied. They have complied with all that they have asked to submit to date. And we have not received any type of feedback. Those public notifications did go out, and we have not received any in support or in objection thereto, to this petition. So, and just want to kind of outline here the utilities that are available to the site. Speaking with electric department supervisor, there is a 3-phase. Stephanie, is there a little pointer? Sorry, I'm gonna have that in hand. Right here, the grain bins here, there is a 3-phase pole there that this particular property and these properties here to the south, as they develop, would be able to tap into. It would be the cost of the developer there though, but 3-phase is available, but they would work with the developer to determine if 1-phase or 3-phase would be appropriate for that site. Also, there is public sewer that comes down 600 West, and it goes here to the Filburns property here as well. So that is in close proximity to this proposed development. And then the water, there is existing water just along State Road 38. So Baker's Point, we know that we've had that petition. It's under earth movement right now. That development, that residential subdivision, will carry then the water service all the way down to the south piece of that property. What we can do as a town, if these parcels do develop, is we can require then a stub off there with a blowout, so then we can have connections for future connections to our public water utility. In the meantime, they would be allowed to have own private well. That would be their source of water until it became available. Okay, you can turn to the, oh, you're right there on this next page. So what the petitioner is requesting for this rezone request, they're asking for this large lot agricultural property to be converted over, rezoned in part at 10 acres to the south to institutional for that place of worship. I did also want to mention that our comprehensive plan has this zoned as planned business, and that comprehensive plan in that zoning, a place of worship is a permitted use within that document. So first to start here, petitioner would like to create this site for a new branch of Solid Rock Baptist Church. And if approved, after the rezone, they would need to work on a survey to split this off to create that 10-acre parcel. And petitioner would go through that site development plan review. That would actually involve the technical review committee, planning department for review of that, as well as the design review board. That new corridor overlay district standards do apply to this property. So when we get to the renderings and the physical renderings of the building and the site layout of that, that board will be a part of those review processes as well. In discussions here with the petitioner, that development down here to the south, you'll see that 600 South kind of continues on to about this little diamond point here, right at the Filburns property and that north property line here of that larger parcel. This roadway in this stretch of the area is a part of our certified road mileage. However, it's not been really maintained, kind of deteriorated over time. And then further on down here as well, it used to connect on past 69 there before it was constructed, but there's a prescriptive easement there. It was a roadway back in the days of rural development, those property lines went to the center of the road. And so we would like to preserve that easement, that roadway there, not particularly for a roadway, but we would like to be able to provide any utility needs, improvements, infrastructure in that area, as well as trails and connectivity. So we would ask for a dedication of 40 feet right away from center line, all the way from the stretch of the north end of this parent parcel, all the way down to the south. And then later, as this north property develops, we would also ask the same requirement. The thoroughfare plan, it does not project the extension of 600 West here. That is the reason why we are not going to require that. However, we will need to have access off of this roadway, which the town of Pendleton, within our community crossings grant program and so forth, and as we are going to be improving 600 West up to the north, we will continue and include the improvement of this green section as well. From there, then petitioner and developer to the south here would be required for this, at this time, would be a private driveway to be kind of on the west property line of that northern stretch to be able to have road access to their property. Later, and we'll see this on the next slide here, there is that kind of 146th Street extension, that roadway that is envisioned for the Gaines property there to the east. That roadway right now is under review for kind of realignment of how we can better connect to 146th Street then to the west. Looking at a road frontage development that would probably come through the center of the east parcel and then kind of divide. So this division here would kind of naturally fit where that roadway might fall into place. However, when that roadway then connects and is available for this these parcels here, they would need to obtain access from that roadway and abandon their access to State Road 38 through 600 West. That would be a long-term vision here that we would then kind of dead end 600 West at some point to where the traffic here would not be able to kind of bypass through this narrow roadway area. So. Stephanie, if you could go ahead and turn the slide here and we can illustrate kind of what I just said. I-69 plan, it showed that this road would kind of come in here. As you can see, it's complementary of our thoroughfare plan being a little bit more up to the north. But as which aligns here and would kind of come through our Bakers Point subdivision. So we would bring that farther south. And again, the exact alignment, placement, and connectivity to State Road 13 and 146th Street is still being reviewed. But that's kind of how it would kind of fall in line with this proposed development. Yeah, here.
Just a quick question.
Yes, absolutely.
Since we're considering the future development of the 146th Street extension, have you covered the access requirements with the petitioner as to how they would access from this new section so that they can put that into their overall master plan for building placement, parking, et cetera?
Are you saying with the petitioner here tonight? Is that what you meant?
Correct.
Okay. Yes, we have discussed with him the access there along 600 West being temporary until then access that. Then once this road does get improved, then he would gain access then. Yes.
So they've had a good discussion to understand the evolution so that
Yes,
there's no
Hannah
stranded
Rose has gone
investment.
Over the, yes.
Just want to,
Yes, yes.
want to make sure that.
Yes, this is all not new for the petitioner. Yes.
Awesome.
Yes,
Thank you.
absolutely. No, great question. Thank you. Okay, and also too, as this development here, as these properties here, acreage develops, they too would also have to access that road, frontage road. Okay. Right. That being said, President, I can go on into kind of staff analysis and also some potential conditions, commitments that we have outlined here in the presentation, or if you would like, if you have any other questions or would Want me to pause
Let's
at
see if
this
the board
moment?
has any questions and I'll open
Okay.
up the public hearings.
Okay.
Any questions from the board so far?
So Denise, the improvements on 600 West would be conducted in conjunction with the relocation of this church to this location. Because
It-
currently it's not in good shape.
The church, as far as time wise, they're looking at probably, I'd say, a 2 to 3 year period. They're going to be going through fundraising efforts, and and really, planning their development, their building, their site layout. So it will probably be a few years, which will actually kind of go in tandem with the development of Baker's Point. And we would like for that to be developed before allowing kind of that portion of development of that north part of Baker's Point to be developed before that roadway gets improved. So we were projecting somewhere around, I think, 27, I think, is about the year that we were looking at having 600 West improved, which would kind of put it in line with their projected development timeframe as well.
And what do you say, what's the zoning and the comprehensive plan for that lot?
The comprehensive plan is planned business. And so planned business was kind of a overarching general commercial zoning, which we then had taken in our new zoning and kind of split that up a little bit more specifically into like general business, heavy business, light and heavy industrial. So that planned business kind of encompassed a lot of different types of commercial uses. But a part of that planned business, it does have for the permitted use, it does have a place of worship in that zoning.
Because typically they fall under industrial.
Institutional.
Institutional.
Institutional,
Yes, yeah,
sorry,
yes, yeah, no,
institutional.
I knew what you meant.
Yeah,
Yes,
yes.
yes. So we have split that out into exactly what you said,
Okay.
institutional as well, which we have let that be kind of the main zoning district, kind of where that use is lives and falls under. But yes.
Just to help with my envisioning where this is exactly,
Mhm.
what's on the other side of 69? Like if you cross 69, what's there?
Yeah, so across the other side, it's all rural, kind of more agricultural properties, some single larger rural residential type properties. It's not within our jurisdiction. It is the county, the unincorporated
Okay.
county, but yes, it's more kind of rural, a little bit farther south from there. I think a little bit slightly to the west would be like where Maple Ridge sits and that elementary area. Mhm.
Thank you.
Yeah, this was that parcel. We had to go back and readdress the use.
Yes, yes,
The
that,
quadrant map.
yes,
Yeah.
that is true. Yes, that is for I-69, our quadrant plan. This particular property here was initially deemed best use for residential
Mhm.
and kind of high-end kind of residential or executive homes and so forth. And just kind of the inquiries and the interest for that was a little bit more flex, a little bit more mixed use. And so that plan was amended to allow some mixed use, which we had that on our analysis, that it kind of continues in with that mixed use along that I-69 stretch. Mhm.
Well, I think the sooner they get started on construction, I'll open up that whole area down there.
Mhm.
Mhm.
That road might come a little sooner than we think.
Yeah.
Any further questions from the board? Okay, I'll go ahead and open up the
Oh.
public. Again, across.
Just
the-
real quick,
Yeah.
any early identified issues with drainage runoff or other utilities that are potentially in the area?
Yeah, there is a stormwater plan, part of that I-69. That would be a part of their site development. They would have to incorporate stormwater management within that 10 acres. It is pretty much all agriculture, I believe, maybe Up in this area, there might have been some detention ponds, kind of a part of that Madison County master plan for the stormwater retention, kind of everything to kind of fall towards that southwest area to kind of drain off there. Did you have a comment, Scott? No. But yeah, that would be a part that they'd have to make sure that that would meet our town engineers review.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Mr. Stock. Okay, I'll go ahead and open up the public hearing if there's any comments from the public or the owner or petitioner this time. Sir? What? You're making a move like you want to get up.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I appreciate it. Well, I appreciate you guys, Aaron Hargis, pastor over at Solid Rock Baptist Church, and I appreciate you guys hearing everything on it tonight. And we are our desire is seeing some of the things that are happening. We've been in the town since 2007, and so I've been the pastor there since 2018. And we've had approximately 280 something % growth since that time, 2018. And our desire is to, I actually have listed here, I mean, the things that we do in the town. But we're just very active in the community. And so for us, it's about putting down permanent roots and just saying, hey, instead of leasing in this back facility, instead of, we started in the school and then that we had to move over to a, what is that, Fall Creek rental storefronts over there. And then, just different areas like that. But our desire is to be permanent. And so it's something we've been actively praying about. And so anyway, we're excited about the possibility. And I actually would like to open it up if you have any questions about the church or anything like that you guys might have that I could answer. Sometimes people want to know more, and I'd be happy to share anything like that you would want to know.
I don't have any questions. Anybody else?
I guess just a couple questions.
Yes, sir.
From a growth perspective, do you think that 10 acres is adequate for the church facility as you see it both in phase 1 as well as phase 2, phase 3?
Yeah, it's a really good question. It's something we've really been thinking about. What our desire is not to be a mega church style. I don't know if you're familiar with that term, but it's not to really be that style, but to rather, look to, and we actually already support Missions Works to possibly plant others outside the town in different states. And we actually have a group going to another state even next week to help get a church started. So our desire is not to build some empire there, So really, I think the 10 acres is going to be sufficient for even the long-term growth. I have talked to Roger about that extending more, but I just really think that after we've sat down and really analyzed that, how much that would hold. And we did talk with a builder, and we think that's going to definitely be sufficient for many years to come. Cool. Even with the town growth that's obviously happening very quickly.
There's 3,200 homes planned across the interstate right now.
Mhm.
I know. It's wild.
Done, proved, ready to go.
It really is. And one thing is the reality is, and I have articles here from New York Times and even different research things. The reality is it is good to have churches and communities, and it is good for multiple things. Like I said, I have tons of statistics on that. It's good to have that for the community for many reasons, not to mention we even have budget numbers that we've put into. Every year we have a drastic increase of money that we're putting back into the community over and over. And I have full budgets on all of that as well. But we are very aware of that area and the growth. And so we think it will be really good. I think I kind of mentioned in a meeting with Hannah Rose, I said, I feel like it's been exciting for us to kind of see the growth and then be a part of that. But really, we want to be part of that next chapter. And I think having a church there to be part of that next chapter will be very effective, even for just kind of the holistic of the community as well. So yeah, there's a lot coming in there. Sure is. And that access, well, that specific location, obviously it's great visibility off I-69, but just the quick off the interstate allows for our people to be able to, and especially with that new roadway. What I really like is that, just from a pastor standpoint, is that area is kind of just seeming to be more and more residential. And then the other side you've got going on to the business. So even this traffic flow and everything, it just kind of fits really nice. I feel like.
We had envisioned apartments, townhomes along that curve on the bottom down there. And there may be some
Okay.
light industrial, little businesses in the middle and retail, gasoline, fast food up by the highway. It's kind of our long-term plan.
Well, as you know, church people love to eat. So any restaurants I go in there be
We all do.
well taken care of. I have no doubt about that.
That's good.
But we also do other big town events like the block party, and we do and, you know, host the Kid Zone and other things. I will tell you, one of our biggest holdups, we've even taken down walls inside of that lease facility. We don't have the storage or the property to hold what kind of the activities that's been happening. I mean, it's almost a bit ridiculous over there right now. So this is going to allow us to really do a lot more, and we're really excited about that. If you were to just look at our involvement, you would see that we really have a heart to put in. So I think this would allow us to have that acreage to be able to do that. So appreciate you hearing me out on that. Any other questions? I would be happy to answer.
Aaron, how many days a week do you plan on using the facility?
So as far as staff, we do have a few staff members that would be in, but we don't have a lot going on throughout the week. Obviously, the big day is Sunday. And we do have some Bible studies throughout the week as well. Those Bible studies currently bring in around maybe 150 for those, 100 to 150. You have some growth with that, but on the Sundays, of course, that's the big day. That's the big day, yeah. So the nice thing is that is not every day of the week where you have something like that.
And you mentioned 200% growth. What's the size of your congregation currently?
Currently, we're averaging right about 240. We actually, what happened is we actually went up and really were above that. And with the space issue, we've actually taken a slight dip. And that's when we were like, we really need to do something here. Even the parking is a huge issue. So, but it's been on radar for a while. It's just this last couple of years, we've really put it to the forefront. And the Sunday worship time being our main worship day is not something that we plan on changing. So it would be on that Sunday.
Fair enough. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Any further comments from the public or anything? All right.
We didn't have any letters that I know.
Nobody called. Goodbye. Anybody online, Steph? Nobody online? Okay. We'll go ahead and close the public hearing now if you want, Denise.
Thank you. Okay, yeah, we will kind of go over our staff analysis, and then I'll share with you some potential commitments, conditions that you may want to consider. So the function of the planning staff is to analyze a petition against the comprehensive plan, other approved relevant plans and ordinances, as well as any existing conditions or variances placed upon the site, to present the facts and analysis. And based on that, we'd like to provide the following comments. The rezone does not pose any hazard to public health, safety, or welfare. On this site, they would be required to provide a pretty hefty landscape buffer between them and existing development, whether residential or non-residential, according to the Unified Development Ordinance. That this development as proposed would not impose any major traffic, visual, or noise concerns. The traffic is very limited per days per week and in quantity. The institutional use does fit within the interchange master plan as kind of a highway mixed use area along that I-69, which was recently updated. And then it also is complementary of the comprehensive plan and the visions that it too had for this property. The roadway would eventually run through the adjacent property to the east, connecting this parcel to State Road 38. And then at that point, then that road there along 600 West would be kind of capped off, kind of abandoned for access, for these southern properties. Also, the size of the parcel does fit within the zoning ordinance for institutional development. And that prescriptive easement, we would want to preserve and also require that easement for that driveway access. And that being that 40 feet right-of-way dedication, we would be asking for that for limited to utilities and a future trail system. As far as conditions, we would like to share with you some that you can consider a part of this rezone request if you do decide as a board to give a favorable recommendation this evening. First of all, is that right-of-way dedication that we spoke about this evening, 40 feet from the center line, to also require that access easement through that northern part of that parent parcel for that private driveway. Also would be abandoning that connection to 600 West when the road to the east is available. And then also as part of requirement for our corridor overlay district standards and even supported by our unified development ordinance and access control ordinance, it supports connectivity and also cross-access easement. So anywhere where a parking lot would be located on the development here, being a huge benefit for emergency services, we would ask that there would be it to be configured to have connectivity for surrounding properties as they develop. We also have two more that are not on here that we did want to mention. Again, this does fall under the purview of the Design Review Board, being in the corridor overlay. So being that the building and the site layout would need to meet those standards as a commitment for that site development review process. And then at last, I do want to share with you, we had some extensive conversation with our legal team. And so we learned here with this proposal, this is taking off 10 acres, proposing 10-acre subdivision from that parent parcel being 36 acres. For a recording document, we want to have that legal description to be consistent with what 10-acre boundaries is being requested and also being approved. So that being said, just being in good governance and good practice, that might be something that a part of our UDO, we don't have it as a requirement for a rezone if it is splitting off from a parent parcel to have a survey and having that limited, restricted legal description. However, moving forward, we will probably be speaking about this at a future planning commission to have that as amendment to our UDO. However, in the meantime, to kind of, keep us covered here, maybe having that survey and that legal, at least a legal description written up so we can attach that to our formal document, which is our ordinance for the rezone. So that is all that we have as staff. And you'll see then on the next slide, kind of outlining those considerations and that criteria for your for the rezone request.
And just to clarify, we're just talking about a reason of the 10 acres.
That is correct. Yes,
That's what I thought was on the
Yep.
slide. I just want to be
Yes.
sure.
that is 100% correct.
And I'll add, that's part of the impetus for the last comments you made regarding the legal descriptions here. I appreciate you guys allowing us to assist you with these matters. And for the record, my name is Tyler Mitchell. I'm a lawyer at Dinsmore and Scholl. And so with this being the first of these petitions of the year, we kind of dug into what the process is with the town and how these have been addressed in the past. And so when we were looking at it, this is a parcel of about 36 acres. As currently presented, there's no replatting of that. And so the entire 36 acres would remain one taxing parcel. And so one thing this commission may consider is continuing the recommendation tonight so that the petition can be amended such that a legal restriction can be included. That way, be it for code enforcement or for development, everybody knows is operating off the same sheet of music of where the legal boundaries are for the rezone. We're talking about agricultural to institutional here, so it's a little different, but imagine in an alternate scenario in which you had a residential to a commercial use, right? Somebody's got a shed that complies under a commercial use, but doesn't in a residential use, and it's right on the line. The commission may consider whether or not they think it best moving forward to have those legals included on the petition. I'll echo Denise's comments earlier. That the legal descriptions are not included here. My understanding is that by no fault of the petitioner or the landowner, right? This is something that we've kind of taken audit of as we've reviewed this petition and kind of moving forward. And so I don't want this commission to think that the petitioner or the landowner are not fully complying with requirements for the petition when they submit it. But this is just something that we've identified moving forward, kind of in the beginning of the year audit.
It's a good point. You feel the same way, Denise?
Yes, I definitely think that we need to make that a part of our practice,
Yep.
moving forward. I really appreciate the time that they have spent with myself and staff here the last couple of days, kind of going over this process for
I
sure.
had one question, not to
Yeah.
throw a monkey wrench in the thing, and I'm obviously leaning favorable. Could you go back
Mhm,
to the slide with the road
mhm.
plot on there?
Yeah.
Was there something in the UDO that stated that we had to have contiguous property for institutional or business? As far as not touching other contiguous business zoning?
Mhm. And
Are you talking about lane block?
Yeah, I just worry if we fast forward, we rezone this
Mhm.
institutional.
You go to the other slide.
Go back one more. We go back, we do that institutional and we end up putting res down in there next to it.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, there's not restrictions as far as different zoning types bordering others, but how we develop them.
I just don't
has
want us to
strict-
get in
yes,
trouble going
yes,
forward.
Yes, so I mean, there's like heavier landscape requirements, setbacks, those type of things that we do need to be mindful of as development does occur, if they are different types of uses
It
and
could be
yes.
10, 15 years till that road comes through there.
Now, when
But
we
it's-
went through this change for that quadrant or that
Mhm.
area, we specified churches.
Yes, and then within that mixed use, yes, it is compliant with our
Yes.
amendment to the I-69.
So I
plan,
think that
100%.
what Tim brought up is addressed in that new
Mhm.
corridor description, correct?
Yes, oh, yes, I agree. I think what he was
Okay.
saying is
Well,
the
it's in the
Unified
corridor, I don't know
Development
if it's in the
Ordinance, is
UDO.
there any contiguous type restrictions as far as land uses next to each other? But I think we're covered
Okay.
with our,
Yeah.
of our planning documents,
question I have.
100%, agree, yeah. Mhm.
Sort of touching on something that we spent a lot of time on.
Yeah,
So this used to be, it's a road, it's just not used, right?
Right.
It's cut off here, and so it's only used in here, so it's only been maintained here. So if they cut this off, in essence, the question internally was, does that mean they're landlocked? And so we came up with a solution that's a win-win. It would force us, the church, to put some money into developing this. So by doing this easement right away, then they're not landlocked, and that leaves options open in the future. Or however, everything may end up playing out.
And I could see the Gaines property developing down through there before 146th Street comes.
So if this develops, part of that development will be taking into consideration what's happening here, but this easement here goes stale, is that how it's gonna work, Denise? I forget.
yes, it would, that cell, they're gonna have to give a cross-access easement
Yeah.
to that
And
southern
then- and
10
then
acres.
There's also this right of way dedication of 40 feet from or from the property line. So in 40 feet
Then if this develops next to it, then they would donate 40 feet and then you would have your easement. Our whole plan is that this would eventually be, this is gonna be a dead end, right? This is coming in. But trail, right? So we want a trail connecting here. Tower, I walked it today. It looks like it's a grass. It's grass, but it's really asphalt. It's 69 built, late 60s. So we've got 40 years asphalt deterioration in the grass fight its way through the crack, right? So,
Do we ever anticipate a connection over the interstate? I'm not talking
Well,
about
that-
interstate access, but just,
no, because
an
it's only half a
overpass.
mile
okay,
now. And to put a
and they don't do
today's
it that
dollar,
close.
$7 million bridge just wouldn't be worth it.
Okay.
It's only half a mile down. This will sort of look like, are you familiar with the Hamilton Town Center, that frontage road right by the theater?
Oh, yes.
Right,
Mhm.
if you.
The vet.
That kind of goes
Yes.
along with
Yeah,
the
yeah,
interstate,
yeah.
yes.
So, a lot of traffic before that curve, as it curves around on 69, just like here, and then it tapers off and then picks up again. I think that's exactly by accident, coincidence, I think that would, looking like that, but instead of a commercial retail, it's gonna be probably more residential.
Any questions? Any questions?
Any questions,
Um,
Ray?
Okay, hearing recommendations from council and also Denise, I'll make the motion to continue this petition just based on the fact to update our UDO descriptions on the plotting and legal descriptions for the taxing unit. Nothing in it wants you do up, down, or anything, you've done anything correctly. It just gives us time to actually help you in the long run as far as your plotting and your tax situation.
I make a comment?
Sure can.
I'm just curious on that, if by continuing. I mean, the goal is to get that legally done and doing all that. I literally just found out about this, right, and I guess could you specify the continuance again, like, what specifically again are we continuing for?
Go ahead, Kel.
Yeah, so the continuance by rule would fall over to the next month's meeting. So unless this,
So I'm just asking the why behind that.
why is to create a designated line for the rezoning purposes, right? So the way the petition is written and the recommendation is currently written is that 10 acres within that 36-acre area will be rezoned. It doesn't specify what portions of that 36 acres are to be rezoned. And so the legal description would just create a boundary line saying these are the four corners of the rezoned area.
So I'm a pastor, very.
So that's how you'll
so-
be taxed.
Right, of
the
course.
Property taxes.
Well,
And you
yeah,
don't pay property taxes.
right, right.
there has
I
to
know
be
what
a-
you mean.
There has to be a definite legal description for
So-
that parcel.
So are you indicating that the petitioner needs to get basically a stake survey that defines exactly where those 10 acres are coming from?
Correct, right. So they would just need a legal description or meets and bounds to create that 10-acre area. And then that could be, if the petitioner or landowner chose to subsequently replat or anything else after that would also serve that purpose as well. But at least at this point, we've designated which portions of the 36 acre are to be rezoned.
So the petitioner's next action would be to get the legal description for the 10 acres that they are actually purchasing so that it can be
recorded.
integrated into
Correct.
this.
And then this commission could consider just an oral motion at the next meeting to amend or staff could make the amendments before, just to include the legal description as an exhibit to the recommendation, just so we're belt and suspenders, we know exactly what is being.
Okay.
Why? I don't know. Okay, so truly a pastor. Okay, just remember that. So I'm asking to learn, not to critique or anything like that. Why now if we haven't in the past?
I can't speak to what prior council did. This is our office has represented the town for
So I guess I would
3
just
months
suspend,
or-
I would extend it out. Why continue now? Why is it a concern now when it hasn't, all of a sudden now?
Haven't seen it.
Basically, the way you're splitting the land is the main concern.
Okay,
And I'll add, my office represents both
I think we have
municipalities.
seen it before though, haven't we, or no? In the town? I believe we have.
Well, I'm gonna be talking about this for.
Okay.
We, Denise.
We have, the Cole Carney JDK Kids property was that 76 acre parcel
Yeah.
that we had rezoned. The indefinite lines for light industrial multifamily. and general business.
Really, it was.
So I know you guys see a lot of grouch that are
Roger?
trying to cause Z. That's not me. I'm just genuinely trying to learn as a pastor.
It's not gonna
And I've
kill your
gotta-
deal. It's not gonna hurt you.
Yeah.
If you're 2 or 3 years out of construction. we'll
Yeah,
get-
the issue.
Next month, we'll get it taken care of on
Okay.
our end. Like he said, we can make it.
You said you had an issue, an issue with the time limit.
Well, I have to communicate that, obviously, to a lot of people and the town and letters sent out and all that stuff. I just want to make sure I do that well, so that way it's communicated well,
Mhm.
Keep in mind, I speak to people who are going to take that and run with it, and I want to make sure that I communicate that very well. And so,
If you were to purchase this property in the future, this is a task that you would have to do in the
Anyway.
future. The idea.
and that's
here-
why I'm curious why we can't do it now, and when we get that legally done, you guys figure that out, then we go forward that way. I feel like we're kind of like, well, we want to do this, so we're going to hold you up for a
So this body
desire.
makes a recommendation to the town council, which will meet and then can or may not change its zoning map, okay? And so what the commission is considering is whether or not the actual recommendation that is made to council, which then informs what the zoning map for the town looks like, is a generalized, we want to rezone 10 acres within this 36 acre area, or if we want to be succinct and say, these are the 10 acres of the 36 we want to amend. It's kind of putting the cart before the horse to do it, to have a rezone that doesn't contemplate the specific area that is to be rezoned. And I'll use the analogy I referenced earlier today. Imagine a scenario in which you want to build a shed on your property, right? The shed is not in proper use within a residential area. I don't know if that is compliant with this UDO, but hypothetically, the shed
Right.
isn't allowed in a residential area, but it is in a commercial area. Code enforcement comes out and says, well, that shed, I don't know if that's in the parcel that's in residential or if it's in commercial. And so I don't know if we then have to get an enforcement order to go bring the shed down. This just makes a line in the sand, says, hey, look, these are the areas we're considering. It cleans up the books. It is a task that you'll have to do before you can go purchase the property anyways. And that way, as you go and look at the history of this parcel, it's clear all the way through that the rezoning at base was proper, right? Or at the recommendation was proper. So then the town council's adoption was proper. You just want to make sure that whole line is in the compliance with Indiana code.
Are you planning to close on it now?
We would love to. But,
Like Tyler said, to close on it, you're gonna have to have a legal description.
right,
to-
And that-
To record the deed at the courthouse.
and to be wide open on it, I thought that, I wondered if that was the case even when we started the conversation, but
Yeah.
was told we shouldn't have to worry about that because of the way we're written right now. So.
You just can't say we're buying 10 acres and
No. I'm saying when we initially said, hey, we're interested in this, do we need to do this? And I was told that it's not written that way, so we don't have to worry about that.
Okay, so what happened, yes, you're right, so.
I'm.
No, under the rules, yes, you're right, but what council is saying, that is bad practice legally
Okay,
to not require it, right? It's legal, it's.
Ahead of time.
It's okay to rezone it under our rule. But council's recommending, hey, you're gonna get yourself into legal trouble if there's not a full description of the 10 acres.
okay.
Okay, so yes, that was true. So I do have a question, because I thought maybe you were gonna go down this path. Is there a way to make a condition recommendation, condition that legal description is done by the time it goes before town council.
I proposed that as well. It was one of my thoughts.
Yeah.
Because they have 90 days to put it on the town council agenda to
Right.
give them time to be able to provide that. But council did make a good point, is that what plan commission is approving tonight, and that was what his line of thought was, is that what they're approving, they want to know that it's a definite, we want to know what we're approving,
And-
what particular boundaries in it, 10 acres. But, you
And-
know, it could be a condition.
And I'm not, it's certainly possible, but it would be a bit of a dash to have that done in the next, whatever, 7 days to have that. So if we're going to push it into the March.
But all you need is, right, which is, doesn't need a survey, it just needs a description based on the current description of the larger parcel, the parent power parcel.
Correct.
So. It doesn't require a survey, it just requires a legal description.
Correct.
So it would be, starting in this in the northwest corner, down 500 feet along this, gets the point. Description.
I guess my thought would be, one, there is a time compression issue. If we think that it's gonna fall over to March, certainly the best practice would be to go ahead and have it done and continue this into the March meeting. But beyond that, this body is making a recommendation based off the universe of facts, which it doesn't necessarily know. It doesn't know the specific area.
That's what I was saying, is
Mhm.
that from a legal standpoint, it's not recommended. That it would fall into. What, I'm just trying to understand your, other than like you may have to communicate, hey, they would like a legal description at this point. It looks everything favor, right?
Okay.
We can resubmit for the March meeting.
Yeah.
Just
So-
the legality.
So yeah, it's just, yeah, I mean, that makes sense. I appreciate you guys explaining it to me. So thank you for being patient with me on that to
Of course,
make sure I clearly understand it all and can further communicate it that way.
Certainly,
So-
and I do want to communicate to commission and to you, this was no fault of your own, right? This is something that we've taken audit of and kind of seen this issue presented just by way of your petition.
But we would have gladly had it
right?
done
If you were.
by now, trust me.
If another parcel had come in with this petition, right, it has nothing to do with.
That's why we hire him. He protects us in the town.
Yeah.
Right.
So let me just ask the question. Is there a way for us to vote on this evening with a contingency to provide the legal description, however that is obtained, prior to approval by the town council?
Well, he said no, because we don't know what we're voting on.
I mean, this body can
Legal.
make whatever motions it would like to do. I believe best practices would to define the area which we are giving a positive recommendation for before we send it over to town council. However, I certainly understand the logic in what you're offering. And this is one of these where you're not gonna find a case out here that directly addresses facts. But
Well, and what I'm trying to address is we have had several other scenarios where there has been some confusion on what is required of the petitioners. And from my perspective, they appear to have been fully compliant with everything that we have asked coming in. And now we have determined that there is a better legal precedent to modify our process, which kind of delays him and the congregation. So I was just trying to see if there was a way to move this forward with that contingency so that the communications and management, the 246 individuals that are a part of that church and understanding who, what, when, where, and why this happened is in the best interest of.
Well, and I
everyone.
appreciate the sensitivity to that. I will communicate it well. You can guarantee that because this is our home and this is what we want to be our home. So if that's what you guys decide, then that's what we'll go with. You're the boss, but I'll communicate it. And that's why I wanted it as best as possible. So that way I can communicate it very well.
I'd like to comment.
Make it clear, so it's, what the council is saying is, if you go forward without a formal legal description, you're not violating law or our ordinance. He's recommending best practices. Correct?
Correct.
So it's up to you.
And then
Right.
really, it sets a precedence that down the road, when we do require one,
Well, she addressed that. We're gonna.
We'll change that to UDO.
We're gonna.
but how
Money.
quickly will that be changed?
We will be putting that in our public hearing notices and
Yeah,
for our March
right.
planning commission.
So going forward, a different case, different scenario, it will be in our ordinance.
Okay.
Right, so. So in the meantime.
Yeah. So I'm glad we just helped expose it. Yeah, we're.
Decision to make.
So let me ask the lay question here. Who and how would a legal description be generated for the sale of this property? Who would they need to engage
There's
to?
only two people who can do that, an attorney or a surveyor.
Surveyor.
I can only do type.
It's recorded at the courthouse.
Okay,
That way, if anybody has any questions or concerns, they can look that parcel up per that survey.
I understand, but I'm just trying,
When the parcel gets formally split, it has to be reported at the court. That's not what we're saying. We're saying the petition would have.
The description.
Legal. When we say legal description, it's a surveyor's description. What?
Yeah, term of art,
In term of art, yeah.
it's that little square on a deed, right, that has beginning at X point, proceeding by
Hence-
number of feet.
Hence 500 feet south, southwest, that nobody can read.
And so when the land is sold, that will probably most likely use that same description. If they don't, then they're gonna create some problems.
so
And it'll be required to, if and when they put the road in the back, they'll have to come off some of those points to figure out where the road wants to be.
so if we do delay it, do you know whom you need to work with to get this description generated?
Yes, Scott. No, just kidding. Yes, no.
Well, that's,
I'm just, I
I'm not licensed.
I know, I was just kidding.
You just need to hire a licensed surveyor.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
okay.
Well, and I have people in the church who,
Attorney, it used to be young attorneys, 2 generations back, all attorneys did this all the time. They're gonna find an attorney, but you can't find an attorney. I don't know if you do or not.
I do a little bit. We have, that's a very.
well, I don't like
regular
him
task.
now.
It's a very
I'm
regular task
teasing.
for our first year attorneys is to do title and
It's
so.
punishment.
Yeah.
After through all the hints words and all.
So what are you
that.
doing tomorrow?
Exactly.
No, I have people in the church too, like, yeah, that are very professional on this stuff. They know what they're doing, and I would lean on them a little bit for that as well.
I just want to
So-
make a comment as a member of this plan commission. As our growth continues on a very rapid pace, being a person who votes and it's a public recording of how we vote, I feel most comfortable with it being very clear. So I continue to support the continuance for that reason. This stuff's gonna get tougher and clearer we
Yes.
are at this point and understanding what it is we're looking at and exactly where. My reaction to this initially was, so where is it? You know,
Okay.
and are we, that's the reason why I clarified is, there's only these 10 acres. So from my perspective, as a person who votes, I like it to be very precise.
Okay.
I would concur with that. So I know it's coming back again, but giving us grace on this growing process as we are rapidly growing and we're trying to do it right.
I understand.
Because it isn't just protection of the town, but it is protection of all the people out there as well.
Well, and I think it's been said at least 3 times, you have done everything right.
Yeah.
And everything is in full compliance with the process and procedures that have been outlined to this point in time. You're just caught in that cusp. And I want to make sure that you're not hung out to dry with regards to your flock
Yeah, yeah, no,
in explaining this. Okay.
I appreciate that. And I do understand your vantage point. I'm a resident here too, so. Wanna make sure it's done
So
well.
if we continue it, he's automatically on for March.
Correct.
If we table it,
Then you would have to renotice and then you could make a motion to pick it off the table, pick it up off the table.
my only question is how quick can you get a surveyor on this? Because I know they're very busy.
Or an attorney or to do the legal description.
It doesn't need to have a survey done. It just.
I'm fine with March. I just want you to get in the corner. You can't get to March.
Well, what I'd probably do, again, I'll lean on somebody, but a couple people in the congregation that do a lot more of this stuff. But what I'd probably do is try to get the survey done because it's gonna have to be done anyway. And
Okay.
just.
Well,
And
no
then
problem continuing. I'm just
if
trying to
it's
help you.
struggle, then I'll just go the attorney route. I would imagine I might be a little quicker.
It's fair.
Or he could request a continuance from March into April if you needed some additional time with the attorney and or surveyor.
And by-
So it would still be live,
Correct.
no new
Okay.
notices. So you got a little flex
Okay.
on March,
Yep.
March, April.
So that's the number one thing by next month, ideally, have that ready.
Okay.
And anything else that you guys can think of that I can have, or you would want me to provide, since I have more time now.
It's good.
Okay.
It's okay. So hearing that and recommendations from the council, make the
Thank you,
motion
guys.
make the motion to continue 2025-1 to the March meeting.
I'll second that.
Thank you. All those in favor of the continuance, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you. See you in March.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for having all your ducks lined up for staff and everyone else that's worked with you to this point in time.
You've been great.
Well, they have been outstanding. I've emailed them quite a bit to make sure I'm good, so they've been outstanding.
You need a recess?
As I say, oh, that's totally up to you.
We need a
I mean, I'm
recess.
Good to keep
Yeah.
going, or if you want to break, we can break.
Let's dive into the UDO changes. I can't wait.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Or come back to legal search real quick.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll get
Appreciate
it.
it.
Thank you.
No, we're
Take
good.
care. Take care.
Okay.
Thanks.
All right.
Thanks.
Okay. All right, so we've got 4 amendments to propose for the Unified Development Ordinance, our favorite topic, just about every month or every other.
Hopefully without UDO.
Thank you, Stephanie. Okay. All right, so for our first topic here was accessory structure standards. This was one that we had, Hannah Rose had presented at the last meeting that we had in December, I believe. And so just kind of wanted to
Only
kind of
4.
walk you through this. So for this topic, we were mainly wanting to focus on and have some discussion and your thoughts and maybe some decisions made on possible amending this portion this evening on bulk and height. Use and let's see, it was use and extent, that has been easy to be able to define, but as different petitions have come in, building permit applications and so forth, we've gotten conditional use variance from developmental standards that have come in through our Board of Zoning Appeals. So we've kind of had these topics that kind of come up for pondering and consideration. So starting out with the bulk there, and that's kind of like square footage of those accessory structures. Right now, what we have as staff to be able to limit that square footage is based on a few factors. The first is that according to each zoning district, we have that standard that's very, very clear, very non-ambiguous, is just that clearly subordinate terminology. So it's that idea that the accessory structure needs to be clearly subordinate or clearly smaller than the primary structure. And so this is particularly conversations for residential zones. And then, so we have that as kind of our standard to guide us in determining how much square footage, say, for a detached garage or a shed, can be placed or constructed on that site. But then the other standard is that it cannot exceed that maximum impervious surface. So we look at say a site that has 8,000 square feet, quarter of an acre, and it has a driveway that's concrete. It has the rooftop of the primary structure. It might have a concrete porch on the back, a slab, and then it may have a detached garage or a shed in the back. So we have to count all those rooftops and those surfaces that cannot penetrate water into the calculation to determine that we don't exceed that if someone comes in to petition then to have an extra shed put onto that property. Those impervious surface maximums are anywhere, depending on the residential zoning district, anywhere from 25% all the way up to 50%. So like say if we had an example, we had a 3,000 square foot home, and then we had someone wanted to come in and wanted to put a detached garage that is 2,500 square feet. Is that clearly subordinate or is it not? So is it enough smaller than that primary structure to be able to permit? And so what we kind of wanted to propose is maybe a little bit more tightened standard, a little bit more clarity for that. So kind of looked at this past week as far as kind of surrounding communities and kind of what their standards are. Looked at Greenfield, Noblesville, Fishers. And so kind of what I came across is that one example is that for accessory structure, if it was a property that was less than an acre, they capped that accessory structure, and that would be all accessory structures on that parcel, to be 1,000 square feet total or less. A property that was 1 to 2 acres was 1,500 square feet. Then a property that was 2 to 4 acres allowed a total accessory structure square footage of 2,000, and then a 4+ acres then allowed up to 4,000 for those square footage. Another community, what they did is that for per lot, they only allowed 1,000 square feet total for their accessory structures, or no more than 80% of the primary structure. Okay, and that is of the main floor. Right now, our standards doesn't designate whether it's basement, second, main floor, or even second floor. So, so theirs was 80% of the primary structure, main floor, whichever is less. And then the third community was 1 acres or less. It capped it still at that 1,000 square feet. 1 to 5 acres, 2,000 square feet, and then 5+ acres was 4,000 square feet. So those are kind of what we're seeing in the area as far as limiting. Originally, years ago in our town code, the old town code, an accessory structure cannot be larger than 1,200 square feet. They could not permit that. So since we've gone with the new UDO, it's given a lot more flexibility and a lot more variance from that standard and that cap. And these are things that we don't have to particularly vote on tonight, but we do want to kind of give you those examples and illustrations, if you want to continue it, to kind of, workshop it a little bit more. And then for
Do we have an
high.
issue with that right now, Denise?
So yes, so some we have, we're getting some of those, and say larger 2-car garages that may in and of itself and the square footage may look a little bit larger than those primary structures, especially for those ranch style homes, smaller parcel lots. So yes, so we've not had a problem, and we can always utilize our Board of Zoning Appeals to come in for condition or variance from developmental standards to kind of help guide us with that as well. But there has been a large, I guess, interest trend in those larger, kind of say pole barn, but those detached garages. And we want to make sure that the values of our properties and surrounding properties of these property owners that have interest in that, we want to make sure that bulk differentiation is in check. Same thing kind of with the height. We've had a repeat interest with Board of Zoning Appeals with some height for those accessory structures. Right now, for most of our residential, it's capped at 15 feet. A lot of the standard garages are 16 to 18 feet. So they've had issues where they've come in and asked for that variance. And, in fitting properties, those have been approved. Our residential multifamily is capped at 15 feet. Our general business and institutional is 18 feet. And then more for our commercial, it goes up to like 25 to 35 feet. Looking in the surrounding areas, some of them go from that 18 to 20 feet. I'm not seeing communities that have that 15-foot lower standard. But then also, some of them have 18 feet or not higher than the primary structure. That's a nice little safety net there. And then also there's a community that caps their height based on the acreage. So like say for the one community was 1 acre or less, that height actually was 14 feet. And then 1 to 5 acres allowed up to 17 feet. And then 5 acres plus was allowed a accessory structure for 20 feet or higher. So.
Why not just simplify it and not to be taller than the primary structure? Whichever.
We can, but we got to remember, like we've got the structure that was there on Water Street, that home is 35 feet, So, I mean, if we're okay with that, we can definitely put that in there that it cannot exceed the primary structure's height. But, a lot of ours are 15 to I'd say 25 feet, but then we have a lot of our older historical homes that could be 30, 40 feet high. Yeah.
Well, and the reason I'm saying that is we seem to be fixated on very small lot sizes.
Mhm.
So to optimize the structure build on these properties, you can't limit it, in my opinion, to 12, 14, 15, 16 feet.
Mhm.
And, look at the historic area. Most of the historic homes are in that 35 to 40-foot
40
range.
feet. Mhm.
Some with it.
That's correct.
So why not allow?
Yeah.
Not to exceed.
I
In
think,
addition to what she's saying.
The three examples that I think I heard her say, the complexities of if it's less than 1 acre, it's 15 feet. If it's 1 acre to 3 acres, it's 18 feet.
That-
If it's more than that, it goes to what,
20 feet.
22?
Yeah. Mhm. That was one community.
There are
yeah.
lots of complexities in there versus just tying it back to not to exceed the primary structure height.
So that would look pretty darky when you've got a awkward. Got,
I don't think you could build a 2-car garage height of a ranch house.
No, you,
no, but so a smaller lot in town on an older home
on the non-conforming lots,
on a non-conforming lot. So we could do it. It wouldn't look nice to the neighbors.
that's what I'm thinking as well, which, again, if we do put that a cap, the very few
Can seek a
can
variance.
seek a
Yeah.
variance.
Variance,
Yeah.
Because then we
Yeah.
can look at that, and
Mhm.
most of them are going to be non-conforming lots. And how is that structure being proposed, situated, so it isn't intrusive to the neighbors, because again, they're gonna be, it's really living quarters up there, and so is it, how are they looking in at all the neighbors?
Mhm.
And I don't think, and again, if these come to us a lot, just as this has come to us today, because we've had several that have come to the BZA, and the height, that's like, we have to work with that, and I don't remember how the initial number was decided or the height for the UDO, but we had decided we need to revise this. But to me, having it as tall as some of these are 40 foot, because they are on the older basements, And then it's essentially then 3 more stories high. I would not want someone to build something that tall back where an original quote carriage house was for horses, because the others have built up knowing that this is how the lots are.
Yeah.
That's my only holdback is it's,
So
we're not
I
really
guess the
talking a
question
lot
would
of new
be,
lots.
do we need to try to be granular in the UDO or have it default to the BZA? And it sounded to me as if the BZA didn't want to deal with exceptions, so they were looking to clarify it
Yeah.
so that they didn't have to address it. But I can
Yeah.
tell you, in working with historic landmarks with my property, I have a taller property. When they were giving us architectural suggestions for an outbuilding, it was taller, steeper peaked roofs that fit into that period. And it's like, okay, 12 feet, 14 feet, 15 feet, a lot of times does not look as good as an architecturally designed addition. It is a canned big box store garage with a 14-foot roof.
But that's where you would come to the BZA
Ask for variance
and ask for that variance, because
for that lot.
it is a bit of an exception, the way yours is situated in height, but if we did not, then think of several of these smaller lots in town that do have larger structures, and then then adding even another larger structure in there. Again, that's why it comes for that variance, so we can see, okay, this will be all right. And I get a certain property, you want it to blend, and that's what I feel like ultimately we're trying to do here. But we also have the reverse of you'll have a bunch that won't.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think that, the purpose of the UDO is to be able to, establish these standards that can kind of safeguard, the development, of our community and be responsible growth, and cognizant of our neighboring parcels and, but yet, give a little bit of, guided, restricted allowances, but then in those unique circumstances that there are some uniqueness to that site, they can go to the Board of Zoning Appeals, and they are very welcoming to any petition that's come their way. I think that we're just seeing a repeat of the product and standard. It seems to be typical that for those detached garages and so forth, they don't fall within that 15-foot cap. And so looking at then the other surrounding communities, we're seeing that that's kind of that standard for those 2-car garages do seem to fall within that 16 to 18-foot area. So just kind of trying to give a good balance of, accommodating what those, what is practical, what is realistic, but then also keeping some of those second views and controls on it through the Board of Zoning Appeals. So, I mean,
So what's the
it's-
specific recommendation? I heard 3 different scenarios thrown out based upon acreages and heights and.
Yeah,
Is
yeah,
there
we-
one today, or is it just a topic of discussion?
Yeah, the last meeting, plan commit, your body had requested us to kind of seek out other communities and kind of what they're doing. And so we wanted to provide that information, to you for consideration. Decision does not need to be made tonight. If we want to kind of explore a little bit more of what, is appropriate and what seems to work best for our community. Kind of providing a little bit more clarity, and direction for our community members for understanding, what their limits are and what they can have as far as, accessory structures. It's, we're starting to get those requests more and more and inquiries and.
Let's do a little more homework.
Okay.
Once we'll have 2 more members here.
Yep, that sounds great.
We
Yeah.
just had one through BZA we approved on Water Street,
Mhm.
Brings property.
Yep.
where he's building that
We
barn.
went through this a
and
few
that.
years ago with the sign ordinances. And we specifically left the sign ordinances where they were, so we could review them.
And
every
his was
sign.
Kinda just
approved.
see
We-
what-
He
Mhm.
presented and it
Mhm,
falls very nicely with his
Absolutely.
historic property and
mhm,
it is a larger structure, but it makes sense.
mhm. Yeah. I agree. Yeah, that sounds great.
So the
Yeah.
BZA does not have an issue with addressing these as one-off exceptions?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
And again, it's because we have so many non-conforming properties in the main part of the town.
Okay, we will continue that. The second one is also another topic that your board may want to consider, kind of thinking about that between now and our next meeting. But this is with our accessory dwelling units and standards. So we're getting kind of a increase in inquiries for these ADU units on properties. But it seems like some of these interests are coming in with a blend of what we would consider an accessory structure, being a detached garage, and an ADU. There is a product out there that kind of joins. There is an example in your Google Drive that if you want to take a look at that, or Stephanie, I don't know if you want to go to that, we can kind of illustrate, kind of what we have, had expressed from different community members. Yes. So this is kind of a mixture. If you looked at the floor plan, I think maybe go on the next page, it might show or illustrate the floor plan. They're very appealing, nice, structures, but I think there might be, the floor plan might be, okay, there it is. So you'll see there that the height of the garage is obviously higher than what we would call the ADU that is attached. And so we've got separated bedroom, full bath, full kitchen. We would consider that an ADU that has the amenities for a dwelling. And, but then being attached to a garage, and again, accessory structures, we have that limit of 15 feet in height. However, if you look at the ADU unit, we have a 25-foot height allowance. So, so how do we handle, how would we want to best handle? And if it does kind of rest within the Board of Zoning Appeals for a variance, that is definitely an appropriate approach. But we've had a lot of inquiries for this type of use, but then also kind of realizing some unintended consequences with kind of the constraints of the standards for these two separate types of structures. So let's say that someone wants to come in and they want to say that we want to build, which keep in mind, an ADU unit has a minimum of 200 square feet, a maximum 800 square feet, or the maximum of 50% of the primary structure's square footage. So if it's 1,600 square foot home, they can have an ADU of 800 square feet. However, they have an ADU, what we would consider an ADU, attached to then a garage, which our UDO says that an ADU can't have an accessory structure. So those are just things that we kind of have to just kind of work and hash out. But then they say in order to get, because our accessory structures have to just fall under the clearly subordinate rule for our maximum square footage, which could be substantially larger than the 800 square foot that an ADU would allow. That kind of gives them a caveat to where they say, well, we're not going to use this as an ADU unit. It's just going to be a space for our own personal use. Family get-togethers, just a little multi-use, space that we, may not even put and install a full bathroom, or we might want to have a bathroom because we don't want resident or people to come into our home. We want to have the convenience outside. So those are some of those type of scenarios that we're kind of facing and kind of working through with staff and trying to determine. So if it has the amenities for a dwelling, do we have to then define it as an ADU? Can we allow a little bit of flexibility with the height variances between that garage and then say the ADU unit itself? So those are some things that I believe that, you know, we should continue to kind of workshop and kind of look into, but we wanted to kind of put them a little bit more in detail for you this evening, you know, for kind of consideration.
So you're still working on information?
So I've tried here trying to find from other communities how they handle ADUs. And ADUs in a lot of communities are restricted to just the home itself, whether it is door from the outside. It's not a lot of special separate standards. I think we are well beyond a lot of communities in our ADU unit standards. I think we've done a great job at that. But then now that trend and, you know, people are wanting to be able to provide this as whether a mother-in-law suite, or it could even be a source of revenue stream. They're becoming a little bit more popular. So we just want to make sure that we keep these, you know, in line with what
Okay.
the visions are.
So help me understand the ADU.
Yes.
I have a 3-acre parcel and I want to put in new garage with an ADU.
Mhm.
I might want to start using it with my teenage kids as a rec room.
Mhm.
They move out, go to college. I now want to convert that into an income generating property.
Yeah.
Income generating property, I would assume then has its own unique postal address
Mhm. That's a requirement, correct?
and is in essence converting it to a commercial property from a residential, since you're generating income off of it.
I don't think technically I understand the
Okay.
concept there, but
But-
yes.
but conceptually-
Correct.
Isn't that getting awfully close to subdividing our existing lots?
It is a permissible use to have an ADU on a residential property. It would not change the zoning, classification, for that property.
Doesn't
It
become
is
multifamily if you have a rentor on that lot?
not for ADU. It's the kind of the log cabin rule. It's a permitted use by state statute. And so we have to accommodate that, for our residential properties. But I understand your concern, and it's same with my concern, is that if it starts out as accessory structure and it's just kind of used as, a rec space, area, then how do we control it as administration when someone then comes in and converts it to a different alternate use, say more so for like an ADU unit? So those are some of our concerns as well. Yeah. So how we kind of govern that and.
Well, that's very similar to some of these older, larger structures that over the years have been subdivided inside, and you'll see a
Mhm.
access staircase up to the second floor, and they
Well-
don't necessarily have separate postal units.
We've
They
we've
might
already
use a PO
seen
box.
homes with additions put on for aging parents, where the aging parents are no longer there. It then carries its own unique physical address. It's now being rented, so it's become a multi-tenant property.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to get all the puzzle pieces together
Yeah.
here so that I understand
Sure. Yeah.
what the nuances are. With regards to having a bathroom off a shop, at my age, if I ever get to upgrade my garage, I would love to have a bathroom off my shop.
Yeah, yeah, no, I understand. I did see in one of the communities that for the ADU, they restricted it to either personal residence or family of the primary residence, or say a domestic kind of employee type thing that is connected in with that primary resident, that
Have we
property owner.
seen case law on this?
I have not, but we could definitely get with our council and explore that and see, yeah, if there's anything existing. I'm not familiar with that, but we can definitely do our homework and do that. Yeah. And then the other piece of this, that planning director wanted us to just kind of bring to your attention is that with the fact that an accessory structure is not allowed to have its own accessory structure, then how do we determine, is it proximity? Is it, how do we determine and keep from a primary structure, not saying that these accessory structures are accessory structures to the primary structure versus the, say, accessory structure ADU type unit. So those are other little pieces that we are kind of exploring. That being said, are we comfortable with continuing out these two items? And, yep, okay. All right. Any questions on that before I move on to the next one? Okay. So for our street trees, these are street trees that are in the public right of way. Currently, we require these according to our UDO on road frontage for major subdivisions. So that could be commercial, that could be residential subdivisions or industrial subdivisions. That is 4 lots or more. That is what defines major residential or major subdivision, sorry. The count for the required street trees for those developments, you take your linear feet of the road frontage, you divide it by 90, and that's how many trees needs to be placed in that area. Doesn't mean that it has to fit every 90 feet, 1 tree every 90 feet, but you have to have that count to comply with our standards to be able to get approval for that landscape. What we are suggesting is that we also include this same requirement for those one-off developments. So those site developments, let's say that, for example, Dollar Tree, Wolfies, those areas that is not a part of a subdivision, 3 lots or less would be required to put in the public right-of-way street trees as well. There is already in our UDO that outlines what those provisions have to be met. Talk to our town leadership. They are in support of that. Just kind of keep in mind street trees that once that 3-year maintenance bond runs its course, the town would be responsible for care and maintenance and replacement of those. They are in support of that. Also, our Urban Forestry Committee, they were in full support of that as well when we met last month. This would improve our quality of life, quality of place for our community. And we would suggest that we could even add as a paragraph to this section that if the administrator felt that there needed to be, say, a full or part waiver or a variation there, let's say that public utilities were in there already, it was an infill development, that these street trees were not possible, that could be waived. So that would be the second part of the proposed amendment to the UDO, is to require street trees for all development, as well as to have that disclaimer that administrator could waive or accommodate other ways in which that can be met.
And at the end of 3 years, the town accepts responsibility for maintaining and replacing the trees.
That is correct. Yes,
And that would be any tree that was planted within the right of way.
the public right of way. Yes.
I'm the problem. I'm the problem.
No, it's just a clarification
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
as these things die.
Yeah.
I mean, we already have all of our maples that are sitting in the right of way that are dying, impacting sidewalks or being removed. I'm assuming that there would be a backfill for those lost trees.
Yeah. Developer would be on them to install the original cost, to cover the cost on that, but you are correct.
That after 3
If
years,
this
it would
is
fall
approved.
back. Yeah.
Yes, that is correct.
Is that, would that apply to all the existing
It would
trees
just
in the
be
right of
from,
way?
that would be from development from here on that was approved. It would be a part of that requirement.
Because
We
I'm
can't,
assuming the tree committee has chosen particular trees that the roots aren't as invasive if
Yes.
it's near sidewalks. and
Anything other
things
than
like-
maples?
yeah, we have a approved street
Yes.
tree and we're actually,
It's a
There is some.
I mean, a permitted, we have exceeded our percentage of maple species, so we do not approve that. We require all developers to remove that from their plating and their site development plans. But red maple is very, very popular, but it's a beautiful tree, but
It doesn't have the characteristics that tends to last longer, it's not susceptible to things.
no, that might be the red maple, but
Red.
but we're just not approving that just because we've exceeded our diversity on that. Yeah, yes.
My little tornado tree won't grow. I need a new tornado tree.
Uh,
It hasn't grown an
I
inch
did get
in
a
2
red
years.
maple as part of the tree planting.
Yeah, you
That
can
was
soak the
before
top.
By-
Yeah. You
Bison-
threw it over.
The bicentennial tree.
Yeah, they are beautiful, but
Uh-huh.
they're not appropriate for a street tree. That is for sure, 100%, no question asked on that.
Mine is even platted on the
Yeah.
tree map.
Yeah, yeah. And we're gonna have a new approved street tree list coming out here this year anyway.
We're good with the trees.
You're good with
Yep.
the trees. Wonderful. Okay, the last one that we have is our parcel ID for common areas. So a part of our process and our development here the last few years, we've established a stormwater fee, and that is payable through our property tax. And what also is included in that is our common space in our subdivision. So that's common space for playgrounds, stormwater detention ponds and whatnot. So we need those parcel ID numbers to be submitted to the planning department. And to kind of put that responsibility on the developer, we would like to propose having that requirement added into the UDO. Kind of like we do our as-built, but having that kind of incorporated in as a requirement. It would be triggered by the town when the town would sign and approve the resolution accepting those roadways. At that time would trigger the responsibility to provide those parcel ID numbers, which should be available around that time. So that is our last amendment proposal.
Any questions on the parcel IDs?
No.
Okay. I'll make a recommendation that we continue items 1 and 2 for further information. And we approve items 3 and 4 as submitted.
I make a motion to approve as stated.
Do I have a second? Thank you, Cheryl. All those in favor of the amendments as submitted tonight, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Denise.
Since we've been focusing on institutions tonight
Yeah,
with regards to the church and everything, I've got 2 institution questions. One is, who within the town deals with Frontier? Because if you were to look at the current state of their outside plant
Mm.
in the gateways coming in and out of this town, it is not being maintained. It is shoddy.
Yeah. You're talking about on East Street
I-
and North Pendleton Avenue,
Take
those
North Pendleton
structures.
Avenue, there are 5 pedestals that are damaged, repaired,
Right.
taped together.
Yeah, we've been talking to them.
So does that fall to the plan commission for UDO maintenance? Is it the town manager?
Kind of planning department, building inspector,
Okay.
that kind of would be the code enforcer on that. So kind of.
They've been there. They've been deteriorating for a long time.
Yeah, I think it did it under unsightly, I forget what Brett said.
Mhm. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Unsightly, we don't wanna, I'd say. It's in the right of way, we could probably get them. Somebody would probably take it.
Yeah. Yeah. We did discuss that here at our last planning meeting, and yeah, that
Because-
he is addressing that.
It is definitely reflecting upon a deteriorating infrastructure,
Mhm.
that the main roads coming into town, the new development, the subdivisions, whether it be there, 2 of them along the cemetery are destroyed. Another one just over the railroad track is held together with black tape. There are at least 4, if not 5, just on Pendleton Avenue from the bridge north. And I think there are more around the community. So that was my first thing. So thank you for putting that on your list. The second one is, I don't believe the town is in compliance with regard to the UDO on the two new sheds that have been built.
We're
These
talking
are the
about
salt
salt barn
sheds.
sheds at the maintenance
Oh,
barn.
The
is what
exterior
I-
being plywood.
So that is not, they're not done yet.
Okay.
So, what we ordered and what they built, not the same. So, we've got the wood in place, it's just been too hairy right now. Applying and siding. They don't cost.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Oh, it's horrible, like from your house, horrible view. Yeah, you're not the only one.
So, and the other question is, will there be maintenance work done on the original salt shed with the back end blown out and the rusted missing pieces?
Yep, street department supervisors are already working on that, so, yep.
That is part of the plan is to get rid of that, or if they do something to it, it's gotta be on par. Yeah. Here's the head of y'all.
Well,
Just took this long to get to it, find the function.
but the good news is they're doing it at no charge, installation and materials. So funding is not going to be a delay or the issue. No, and it's just one of the things that,
Well, I mean, as far as replacing the old salt water,
okay.
that's.
And it's just one of those things that with our UDO, we have such high expectations and we continue to refine and raise the bar with regards to what we expect from the public. And I guess sitting on the board and as a part of the town, I want to ensure that we are in total compliance with our own standards and don't take the free pass card every time.
Yeah.
Yep.
There's been,
I respect that.
give you ample case for that.
Any other questions?
I
comments?
do.
Well, thank you
Oh,
for
yeah,
working on
I
that.
don't mean to prolong, so
I
I'll,
see them stacked up out there.
I want to bring up,
That's stacked. It's treated. I'm
S-
sorry.
you're fine. Senate Bill 491. I wanted to bring it to the attention of the Plan Commission because it does deal with planning. This is authored by Indiana Senator Gaskell, who lives here in unincorporated Pendleton. It's regarding, and it's Madison County specifically, and it has to do with annexing a parcel that is non-contiguous. And when I read it today, it has to be within, the county has to be within a certain population. So they wrote it specifically for us and it's stated that way in the bill. It has gone over to the local government Senate committee. Now they meet tomorrow, but this one is not on their agenda. And I believe it's not on next week's. But time is of the essence. And I just feel like from a planning perspective, we kind of dealt with this with the Nuco. But
The
was that-
Nuco Meadows,
No,
Metals,
the metal.
the metal.
Except that was more at a county level. This is at obviously a state level.
Well,
I don't feel like this is good planning. This could affect us as the town of Pendleton, only because it's not really defined how far out they grab those parcels. And then once it is annexed to, I'll say the city, because that's how this reads, then everything in between becomes contiguous. So it doesn't matter if annexing that non-contiguous parcel specific to, I mean, I should have it printed. I do apologize. It's more for,
Water treatment
Industrial.
plants, industrial.
yes,
yep,
industrial
infrastructure.
treatment
Yeah.
plants. But then once that's annexed, it does have the unintended consequence of everything in between. And then, and I don't feel like it's in the best interest of the people. And again, we have to look to our town, but we don't know how far these annexed parcels are to our town either. It's poor planning. And I just feel like time is of the essence. I would like our group, without this being able to be read, just recommend that our town council take more immediate actions in looking at this and making a vote, whether they want to send a letter in unison as the town of Pendleton to this committee that has several senators on it.
Okay.
So-
You want to comment on that?
So Scott, you can probably help us with this. I know that there was legislation that kind of reversed the actions that Ingalls took, annexing areas up on 1369 that were non-contiguous to get business development, taxation revenue, pick the cherries, acquire the properties. It sounds to me as if it will open the door for that once again. And that will put communities that may not have our best interest at heart with the ability to pick areas along 36, 38, 67, 9, all of the different highways for industrial development. So that we will be looking at, oh, someone wants to build a battery plant. Someone wants to put in industrial warehousing. It's a one-off then fight, if you will,
Yes.
to oppose that with an unorganized community in unincorporated areas. And once again, we're impacted similar to the smelting facility that is adjacent to our planned residential development.
They had a hearing in it.
It has not. So it just was sent over to the local government committee, the Senate committee. This is on the Senate side. It hasn't had any modifications yet, and it's not on their meeting agenda yet. But again, those, you know how quickly those
I
can
mean,
move.
The only thing you could do is have town council do a resolution saying that was legislation, but that's up to those five.
It is, and that's. what
Should we
I'm
recommend
suggesting.
that though, as a planning commission to help
I mean,
protect?
you could, all the right council, you can always vote, what's the
Make a
term on-
formal
have a. Yeah,
recommendation.
You know, you could do it even oral motion
Yeah.
and recommendation,
right,
something which, I know we don't generate a paper transcript, but
right.
on the record to council to inform them of their position.
Right.
And I believe we did take a paper transcript to the council when we presented with regards to the smelting facility. Because we executed on that, they immediately turned around in their meeting, executed on that, and it went into the planning process.
It's
So
a two-way sword on it, Scott. Can't we use that bill as well?
I'm sorry.
Can't we use that bill as
Well, I
well?
think it refers just to Anderson. It describes.
does,
the county
because
by
their
population.
population.
It says it has to be a city
Yes,
within a county of
Yep.
business. It's
Yep.
called special legislation by constitution. You can't.
So they run it specifically for their water plant.
Yes.
And
but the unintended consequence is, once it's approved, they can keep doing it.
It's a way to skip ahead. So
Yes.
what Anderson wants to do is they want to annex as much ground as they can along 109 to connect two interstates. And this is a way to skip ahead
Mhm.
like you do in Monopoly. Right?
So could they annex 100 acres along 36?
Well, they put the plan in, so here's the city coming down 109, they put a plan here or a well, only has to be a wellhead,
That's right,
and then,
connected.
right. Then you have continuity,
So then it can be zoned as anything else then.
right?
It only had to be
Yeah.
the specific on the non-contiguous,
Mhm.
and then after that, everything is
Triggers.
So
contiguous.
Markville and Adams jumped all over his case as soon as it sort of leaked out that he had done this. Then he claimed that it was supposed to be for Alexander.
okay.
Scott, how does that-
But it doesn't matter, because if it allegedly is proof for them, then it could still fit the bill for everything else. It's just bad. It's bad planning.
And Alexandria would not qualify as a city based upon population. They are a town,
No,
therefore
there's
they couldn't
They're
use it.
cities.
There's
They have a
there's
mayor.
3 cities. Bassett County.
When did they
Elwood.
exceed their population? to
They've always
qualify
been.
as a city?
You're classified as a city and a town, not based on population.
Political structure?
Yep.
Okay. So is your recommendation that the plan commission make a recommendation and a vote to move our recommendation forward to the town council for their meeting, opposing this for the various reasons? And if so,
You're
do
asking,
that tonight?
you're asking the council to write a letter to them.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay,
Jen, you want to make it? Or you want me?
Well, I make a motion for, let me repeat. For the board to approve that we ask our town council to consider this. To put together a letter regarding this situation. And then did we want to do anything for ordinance? I heard ordinance as well. Through a,
Through
that would-
resolution.
okay, so it would
Yes.
be done through a
Through a
resolution.
resolution.
And our recommendation is we do not support this move
Correct. We do not
as a
support
plan
Senate
commission because
bill.
of the impact on our overall ability to continue the
Well,
appropriate development.
why don't you put the bill number in with our,
Senate Bill 491 authored by Senator Gaskell.
I would always put it not in the Senate, but always put that.
Okay,
That's, you just go to the description.
yeah.
It's not,
Do I need to state this in the bill?
well, I think council could put together,
Okay,
where does that go?
then you just forward it to the
Where does it go after that, Scott?
town council would vote, and then they would forward it to.
That's what I'm asking. What
The state house.
legislative body?
Yeah,
Yeah,
State
so-
House?
The legislator. You can
And-
send it to everybody in the legislature. The other 49 senators can give it here.
Right.
it's mainly that committee, right?
So it'd be
Send it to the committee, that's who-
There's a handful.
committee and all the Madison County senators and reps.
Yes.
Okay.
And then
Do we
I
have the
would
council
say-
drafted and our council send it?
As, you know, as council instructions, but certainly something.
That's what I do. Have him send it.
I'll second it as a request to have council generate that. And if you can get it into the office, I'm more than willing to come in this week and sign it if we want signatures, or we can do it on the oral recommendation.
I don't think you as a body could send it. I mean, you could, but nobody would regard it unless it came through the town.
My-
council.
It was,
All you have to do is say, you recommend
Okay.
as a council, make a motion that we recommend to the town council that they oppose the language in Senate bill.
I thought on the smelting facility, each of us signed it and then it went to the town council.
That was an actual petition, I believe. And that,
Easiest
and that
way
was
forward to
private.
get it.
Well, that was a
The
private,
easiest way to do it is what I just said.
Mhm.
the
Or
smell,
then for the town council meeting, there would be a resolution.
Okay.
okay. I have a motion and a second for the opposition to the House bill. To write a letter, for the council to write a letter opposing that. Senate Bill 491.
Yep.
All those in favor of that motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you.
Bef-
So
Oh,
council will get our recommendation. Tyler's firm will try, they'll inform them.
And then it's up to them. There has to be at least a member to oppose the resolution.
Very good. Any other questions or comments?
before we close, we just had a few updates. So comprehensive plan and the downtown revitalization plan, those steering committees are in full swing. We just had our steering committee meetings first last Monday. It went great group of individuals that we'll be working with. That downtown revitalization plan will kind of work in tandem with our comprehensive plan this time, which will be great. Also, planning department director and our director of community our community development coordinator, sorry, Carrie Craig, they are working with a firm to develop an arts and culture plan. They're at the stage of kind of scope and fee for that. That's projected to be about a 6 to 9 month process, but we'll continue to keep you updated as that transpires. Keystone Development Area, kind of working on scope and fee. We've had communication with a few firms, and we've got some that are kind of resubmit a little bit more detail as far as what that scope would involve. So we'll be looking at that in-depth development there, I-69 for our Keystone area. And then also we're working with legal counsel, wanting to work on our long-term rental caps percentages for our subdivisions, trying to put that as a protection within our UDO. And also there is a grad student at Ball State working with Hannah Rose on a National Register historic building inventory for our community, for the town. And then also there was a award granted for an update to that 1995 architectural study that was done by Ball State. So that will all start in March.
I thought we had a
Yeah.
comprehensive inventory of all historic buildings, contributing buildings, et cetera, that were put together for the historic district.
There is a
nomination.
historic preservation. We have that document, and it has all of those historical buildings within that downtown area, that National Historic area. But I think this goes into a little bit more beyond the buildings. It's going to be, it could be structures, it could be monuments, it can be murals, it could be signs, all different types of
Will it be expanded to pick up the mid-century moderns that are here in the community that may not have been in play in 95?
I've not been a part of that, but we can most definitely, I can relay that. Yeah, to Hannah Rose and make sure that that gets
It's kind of a
included.
question since
Yeah.
it's been almost 30
Makes
years
sense,
since
yeah,
the last historic inventory.
yeah, yeah.
And then we'll have
Absolutely.
to have to work in on that.
Yes.
Classification.
And then just kind of give you a heads up, our IT is working on converting us over from Google Drive to more of kind of that Teams product, Word. So once we get that all up and going, we'll be getting all that information out to you all. And that's kind of how we will relay information for our meetings and communications. So that's coming up here. So that is all I have. So thank you for all your patience and working through all that information tonight.
Any other questions or comments? Third time, John.
I know.
I have one more question.
Shut up, Brad.
Yeah.
Meeting adjourned.
Motion to adjourn.